Good morning YouTubers. This news is already a couple of days old, and as usual, I'm only just catching it. There's a fine line between trying to help things along and laying waste to whole groups of people. Starbucks not only found the line, they disintegrated it when they hit it at several billion times the speed of light. I realize that I'm not the usual critter that turns up to comment on some sort of new and egregious bullshit, but Ren's got something else she's doing right now, and I expect Lacey will be here in a few minutes to throw in her 2 cents. Some years ago, Starbucks decided that they wanted to cater to the trendy hipster crowd with more money than brains. So they hit upon the idea of abusing language, to create a special vocabulary with which to order one's coffee, including any modifiers. I remember getting several copies of the little manual they printed in my mailbox, and after perusing them and seeing that their smallest regular cup size was called a tall, went and made myself double grande from my coffee pot. That cup of coffee was a regular U-Bend brewed thing that cost me a grand total of 35 cents after I added the usual trimmings. If I'd taken it black, it would have been closer to a quarter, for a higher dose of caffeine than I'd get from 2 of their stock venti lattes. To get the same from Starbucks of the day, I would have needed 3 large cups for a total of just over $15. The numbers for both have gotten a bit higher since then obviously, but it disturbs me that the cost of an extra shot in any drink they sell will still cost me more what it costs to make an entire pot of bog standard drip. But really, that's not my gripe here, and we all know it. In my experience, when most companies start to see sales flag a bit, they add something new to the menu, or bring out a new product to drive a bit of interest to get people into stores, and maybe see some of the older stuff as well. They also retire products that are older and doing poorly or that there's still a softish market for to drive the demand up for the remaining stock, and those that can't get it then have to take their chances on the secondary markets or wait for a product to come out of retirement so they can pick it up again. Toy and film companies have been doing it for years, and Disney has made a killing on that sort of behavior over the last several decades. The Thai company started out doing it, and created not only a constant demand for their Beanie Babies brand of stuffies, but a huge secondary sellers market that still persists today. Even McDonald's does this, teasing us with the McRib for a couple of weeks every few years, and then retiring it again. It's a crap sandwich, but the rarity of the thing packs people into the restaurants more than long enough to make a profit, and then back to the deep freeze. It's time-honored tradition to do things like that. Just not for Starbucks. So rather than put a limited time sticker on the tiny rock-hard focaccia sandwiches they pawn off for prices that make a Big Mac cringe, every time they start seeing growth numbers less than they'd like, they start the sort of controversy that draws social justice warriors and pretentious hipsters like flies on a pile of long-laid predator feces. Now, I know what you're going to say next. Damn it Kage, what the unholy fuck are you bitching about now? Spit it out man. Their current project, Race Together, is a massive undertaking in which the people who ring up and make your coffee are being requested to voluntarily start conversations on race and race relations with the customers, including writing those words on the coffee cups of customers based on some criteria that Starbucks refuses to disclose. Correct me if I'm wrong, but have their hiring practices changed recently? To be able to speak on an extremely contentious subject like this, especially in the United States, one would need to be a trained psychologist or sociologist. Last I heard, no such degree was required to gain employment with the company on any level. If it were, then one of 2 things would happen: either they wouldn't have employees, or they'd have been told by innumerable experts in the fields in question that this entire exercise would end in tears. Actually, it doesn't even take a degree in social sciences to realize that this thing is going to end badly. There are people that will sue a restaurant because there were onions on their cheeseburger when it was ordered without. Employees in any number of places are attacked because a product they bought weeks ago doesn't work the way they expected it to. Working tech support, no matter the product, is only ever undertaken for more than a year or 2 except by utter masochists. Every tech support worker ever is guaranteed to be verbally abused at least once on any given day by some dickbag that can't follow directions delivered in both written and pictographic form. The average Star Schmucks employee has a high school diploma at very best, and is less than 25 years old. They are typically paid at whatever the current minimum wage is, and receive little or no training in anything other than how to make the coffee and what it tastes like. It takes less than a week, and they're serving customers. You're giving these people, unprepared and undereducated in the fine art of human interaction, a set of questions to ask some unsuspecting person coming in off the street for a quick cup of whatever they're in the mood for, along with a cup that marks them out as someone who they felt needed to consider a topic where the trained and the confident rightly fear to tread. Did I miss something here? Did I not get the memo that says that amplifying racial tensions in a place where they're already stretched to breaking is a good thing? Doing this is virtually guaranteed to send someone flying into a rage. What do you tell the family of the first Starbucks employee to get their face caved in by someone prone to violence and sensitive to race issues? How about the employee that gets verbally ripped a new asshole by a social justice warrior that thinks that a skinny white guy behind the counter has no place talking to a Filipino about social privilege? Particularly after that person is found hanging from the ceiling fan in his bedroom the following morning? This is a company that's known to savage words to make itself look more intellectual to people that aren't short on pretentiousness. They can't even agree on vocabulary, and they're telling their own to kick a tiger in the ass. Don't mind the teeth, okay? They won't hurt you, honest. Am I really the only one that sees a problem here?
No, Kage, you're not. This move has its critics, and not just us. Critics have been blasting this thing since it was announced. Most of the social justice camp seems to have gone mute in the backlash, although I didn't get a lot of time to peruse Twitter or Facebook for quotes from them. That blockbot Randy Harper put up in response to Gamergate is impeding progress in a big way. Fortunately, it looks like it's about to be sundowned, and with a little luck, we'll get a chance to look deeper here soon. Most of what I saw was backlash and mocking. I did find a list of stupid that's making the rounds. I'll save that for later, though. I don't know who's getting the marked cups, but I bet we can all guess. Because in this day and age, being white is proof positive of ultimate sin, and they're supposed to feel badly about it. In my opinion, Kage's right on the money here. Speaking of race in a world desperately trying to keep from exploding in the current climate is something that should be undertaken very carefully by people who have studied the subject in significant detail, not by a person behind a counter selling an overpriced beverage and bagel for a company whose executive board consists of 16 Caucasian men and women out of a total of 19. This isn't the first time Starbucks CEO Howard Shultz has tried to pull the social justice angle with his employees, and short of the company dying a hideous death, it won't be the last. What we really need to be doing here is to let them know that this behavior is simply not acceptable. Even Steve Jobs, who actively courted the same demographic that Starbucks does, had a better sense of priorities than that. If you really think about it, Wally Coyote had more foresight, and even Daffy Duck would wonder what Shultz is smoking. I want to know where I can avoid it, too. It speaks volumes as well that this initiative was pushed right on top of the announcement of a 2-for-1 stock split, and at the board meeting where it was agreed to, most of the meeting was taken up not by the discussion of the split, but by this travesty. I find it interesting that the places you find Starbucks stores are mostly white, semi-affluent neighborhoods and towns, and not places like Ferguson, Missouri. A few of the minor league social justice warriors are thinking of this as a bold new frontier, and everyone else wonders why the company is trying to get its workers killed. But then, Starbucks isn't alone in this. Long-maligned birdcage liner USA Today is in this as well, presumably in an attempt to become relevant again. Their parent company, Gannett Media, seems to think this is a good idea as well. They publicize this fast to the hilt in that thing they want to call a newspaper, including an interactive page on their website. The amount of money they spent doing this is second only to the size and hardness of the balls it took to order this mockery of people all over the world. Okay, I get it. The European colonists that came to my native Australia weren't exactly nice to my ancestors either, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to spend my time knocking them just so I can feel better about myself. It's precisely that sort of attitude on every facet of this particular monstrosity that makes it a hot-button issue, and we all need to stop, take a deep breath, and realize that we're all the same variety of ape. Some of us are simply adapted to different initial environments than others. If Europe had been 100 degrees in the shade 340 days a year, they probably wouldn't be fair-skinned today. Chances are, there would still have been a problem with the slavery all over the world during the same time periods. The difference would be that slave populations would have been universally branded at birth, rather than being picked visually out of a crowd at 100 paces. Most people I've ever run into see me as one more face in a crowd unless they're attracted to me. I get the occasional catcall, but not to the point where I want to hide from everyone. At work, I get paid the same as everyone else regardless of gender, skin color, or anything else that certain morally ambiguous people might want to dock me for. For that matter, there are people out there that can't find a job because companies are terrified of being sued for not hiring a woman that happens to be dark-skinned. There are some idiots out there that even after spending several minutes talking to me about whatever comes to mind identify me as African American. In a lot of ways, I feel like I should take offense to that. The assumption is that because I'm black, and in the United States, I must be of African origin. One would think the accent would tell them clearly that I'm of Australian Aboriginal stock. They refer to Caucasians as white, but use weasel words to refer to folks that don't look descended from European stock. I have no idea where that started, but stiffen up your spines and grow a brain, people. We're all human, and the sooner we get that through our thick skulls, the sooner we can move forward as a species, rather than do what Starbucks has done and create divides where they don't belong. Maybe then I won't have as much ideological bullshit to rant about, and we can get on with the more important task of running religion to ground, and putting the kibosh on radical feminism. Speaking of, there's one more thing to note before I start in on that list of bullshit I was talking about earlier. The feminists have seen this thing, and for once they've decided that it's not worth the trouble to comment on. When Anita Sarkeesian sees a golden opportunity to insert herself into a social justice cause and takes a pass, you know something's wrong. As for that list, here it is. Entitled How to End Racism, it reads like a list of things you want to do if you want to get beaten about the head and shoulders by someone that's sick of hearing your shit. Banging on about it incessantly is a quick way to draw ire from any target, regardless of their propensity towards violence. Highlighting ethnic diversity is simply divisive. No one that wants true equality is going to do that if they're smart. Making snap judgments is a particularly annoying logical fallacy. Using statistics to make arguments is useless unless you not only have the right stats, but know how to apply them. The bullshit statistic that women make 73 cents on the dollar for the same work comes to mind. I've never been paid less than my male counterparts. In one case I was actually paid more. Why might that be, you ask? Because I had more experience coming into that company than they did. My skill level, once proven, demanded a higher rate of pay. Comparing people by race is a rewording of number 2, and I've already answered that one. 6 and 7 are birds of a feather. Addressing the stereotypes of one group while ignoring the other isn't intellectually honest, and only serves to multiply the amount of shit that's being piled on. 8 and 9 are the same as 6 and 7. Praising me for making the same money as my Caucasian counterpart in the cubicle behind me is just as upsetting and counterproductive as criticizing him for getting a larger bonus than I did one year. He got an extra project done I didn't that year, and I don't hold that against him. His wife did on the other hand, and filed for divorce. I don't have 6 kids, and he does. He wanted the extra money to make a nice Christmas for them. He did, and she tried to take him to the cleaners. I gave him money to help him keep his children, because I didn't want to see him get screwed over by that crazy bint. Last I heard of her, she gets supervised visits and has been living in homeless shelters and boyfriend's apartments for the last 5 years. He even declined to accept child support. The state charged her the minimum $25 a month, and she's 3 years behind on that. Now for the last one, and I'll wrap this up for you, assigning different values to different races. I have to ask, by what standard you assign which values? What are those values? The statement itself is so vague as to be nearly meaningless. Even if you could come up with a list and a standard, it's just as divisive as everything else on this list. Why would you do that to someone? We're all human. If we can't accept that I'm the same brand of vape that Kage, Ren, Arthur and W is, then we have a problem that could and should be addressed. Just not this way. This overambitious stunt will serve only to divide us further, and won't serve anyone. If you're going to Starbucks first thing in the morning, consider stopping at another coffee shop, or even hitting up one of the little drive-up kiosk stands that dot the landscape. Show Shultz and his company that you're not about to lie down and accept a divisive, hurtful campaign of guilt and terror just because he wants a bigger bonus at the end of the year. No matter what he says, that's what it's all about. Howard Shultz making more money than he already does. $21 million a year to try and tell us how we should live our lives. United we can withstand anything. Divided, we will fall. Shultz is setting us up to fall, and I'll be damned if I'm going to let him do that.